Why don't you just give us your quick, like, 2-minute origin story? Where'd you come from? How'd you get into casting?
Oh goodness. Hi guys. I'm Holly with Wojcik Seay Casting. I started as a performer. I think probably a lot of you have heard this story, but I was working as a performer for very many years. I started to feel like I needed a change of pace, something different. The lifestyle wasn't really working for me anymore, so I was out looking for other things that would interest me. And I had been working for Vital Theater Company as kind of like a part-time admin assistant, doing many things there. And they had a casting director working on their season. This was probably around 2005, 2006. But he would set up the sessions and not run them. So they were like, can you just sit in and make sure that like everything runs smoothly and the team is happy and, and the rest of it. And I sat in a couple of times on a couple of sessions and did just that. I realized that I knew pretty much all of the actors that were coming in the room because I had been auditioning within the last year. So that was really fun for me to like be able to collaborate with a team and kind of help them figure out among all of these people that I knew really well, what would work best for them. And it was really great opportunity for me to feel like I could make that environment for those people coming in a more warm and welcoming atmosphere than I had experienced in a lot of auditions. And then they at Vital asked me, they saw that I really enjoyed it, and they asked me, hey, do you want to do this for us next season? And it was the light bulb of like, oh, right, this is a career. Like it really hadn't dawned on me that it was a thing I could choose to do with my life. It was just sort of like, oh yeah, I'll go in and run these auditions. And so from there, I really stepped it up and I got an internship in Tara Rubin's office. I was there for a summer. I did a little bit of like associate work with Michael Casera 1 year for nymph auditions. And I guess the rest of it is history. I bounced around a bit. I had my own company. And then was hired by Do I Doing for a little while. Now I'm full-time Wojcik Seay Casting, and I still do have some of my projects through HDB Casting, which is my own company, which I had sort of all through. And one of those clients is Vital Theater Company. Yay!
So what are you doing now? What is Wojcik Seay doing now? Is anything being actively cast? Are you doing anything on your end? What's
I mean, we're all a little bit at a standstill. There is one production, and that would be Kinky Boots at the Arvada Center, which is sort of thinking about proceeding, but it's still a little bit of a question mark. So what we may wind up doing with that is doing video submission auditions, and then hopefully if they decide to proceed with that show, which is happening at the Arvada Center in August, then we will try to get in the room with some people if that is something that is allowed. A lot of our companies have canceled seasons, unfortunately. I think that's happening across the board, and I understand that. I mean, it's really hard to know how to proceed with a safe season, especially with live theater. So we're sort of in a waiting game like everyone else.
in light of what's happening with a lot of, I'm assuming, self tapes and Zoom and audition things, the little things that are happening. Do you see any long term effects to the way auditions are run after this is finished? Anything that lingers through?
Right. It's interesting. It's hard to say right now, um, because primarily what we do in our office is theater. We've always sort of taken the path that is like, please no self tapes unless the team specifically requests it. If they slowly start to open the theaters, I can see that Zoom auditioning, self-tape auditioning will pick up for us. I mean, teams will just have to kind of look at that. But I have always found with like, especially with our teams, that they are hesitant to hire someone from the self-tape unless it's somebody that they know. So we always try to do that as a last resort rather than start with that. So maybe that will be the shift. We might have to start there and then see, but it's really hard to say right now. I mean, I still feel like for live performance, you really need to see that person in the room in person.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what happens. I hope things don't really change. Like, you have to be in the room. It's a live art form. Speaking of self tapes, the one of the most popular questions by far was, what do you look for in a self tape? What makes a good self tape?
I mean, you want it to be clear, clean, no crazy stuff happening in the background, no cats like rubbing up against you. You know what I'm saying? Like I've seen all forms of self tape. It's tricky. Like especially with singing, you want to try to get the best sound quality you possibly can. I think keep it simpler in style than you might do your audition in the room, like really try to tailor it a little bit more for camera. I think i think everybody watched, or a large part of everyone watched, the Sondheim birthday extravaganza that was on broadway.com, right? So you could kind of see what worked and what didn't. Like I was totally riveted by Elizabeth Stanley, Miller's son, because it was specific, it was clean, it was clear, there was not a lot of distraction in the background. She was focused right on the camera, and it just was very well executed. And then some other people were really great, but it was like you couldn't really focus on them. Like you were like, what's happening behind them? And like the sound quality is weird. So you really want to just get the best take you possibly can and try to gear it towards camera a little bit more than you would in the room, I think.
Great. One more COVID-19 related question, then we'll get into more general audition questions for normal times.
Right.
Do you like staying in touch with actors? And if you do, what's the best way to do that with you right now?
Oh, right now. Normally, Wojcik Seay Casting, we prefer snail mail. Obviously, we're not in the office. So you can always shoot me an email at my HDB account, which is holly@hdbcasting.com. If you have questions, if you want to say hello, I really don't mind. Sometimes it will take me a little while to get back to you, but I usually try to respond to all the emails that come in through my personal account.
All right, so now into more general audition questions. What sparks your interest in an actor when they walk into the room for an open call?
Wow. Well, obviously, actors that are super prepared, and every single time they show up, they have done the homework, they are specific and reliable. But then there's something else that happens with certain actors where it feels like they keep the material fresh. Like every single time I see them, they're so in the moment, even though they've done the work. When they hit the floor in the room, it just makes them pop, you know? So I think the actors that stand out the most for me are the ones that are really in the moment and thinking on their feet. They take adjustments like that when the director is like, hey, can you try it this way? And you kind of never know what's going to happen next. And not in a dangerous way, but in a way where you know, like they're in control of the work, that they have specifically done the work so much and so well that it is that character that they're going in for has become a part of them, and they're just being that person.
And on the back end of that, what are some common mistakes that you see actors make in the audition room?
I mean, everybody's nervous, so you just got to figure out how to kind of work with that, whichever way the nervousness manifests in you. But I think not owning the room, I think sort of there's a certain amount of people that come in and they're so nervous that they apologize without apologizing. Like they're just asking for permission to be there. And it's like, no, this is your time. I think you need to just go in the room, be who you are. We invited you for a reason, and just own it. Own the work, own the room. You know, you can't help what's going on behind the table. You're going to get all kinds of different energy coming back at you, but you can stay in control of that moment for yourself. Also, I think, just be a human. Like, I think people do sometimes get so nervous that they're like weird in the room. And it's, just come in and say hello. I invited you. I'm excited to see you. So don't be weird when you walk in the door, I guess. Just be normal, be yourself.
Backtracking for a second, someone just asked, you were talking about Elizabeth Stanley's Sondheim thing, and they had a question about looking directly at the camera or not directly at the camera. What do you prefer? What do you think is the best way to deliver your material?
I think directly at the camera. I mean, you don't want to be staring directly at the camera all the time. That even watching her performance, she thinks about stuff and then she comes back to the camera. But I personally believe like looking directly at the camera is key.
Okay. A couple people asked about they have accents, and they were wondering what the best way to enter a room is with the way they just normally speak, or to come in with a standard American accent and then go from there.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'd never really thought about that before. I think either way works. I think the people that have astounded me the most are the people that have come in with standard American and have been that way all through. And then you go out in the hallway and you hear the accent and you're like, wow. So that's the surprise factor on our end, but I think both work so long as you obviously within the context of the material that you have to bring into the audition, you're doing the correct accent. I don't really believe that accents get in your way unless they get in your way and you cannot do the standard American, right?
Another very popular question that I've asked a bunch of people is the dreaded pop rock audition. What does Holly like to see in a pop rock audition? And it varies between shows, like we know that, but what is your...
I mean, look, everybody has a different opinion on this one, and I feel like whenever that comes into play, you really just have to do what you feel like works best for you because you want to give your best performance in the room. I don't love acted out pop rock. It's not, like if you're like telling a story, but I also feel like you can't not infuse it with something. Rock music is meant to be felt. And usually when I teach and somebody brings a pop rock song in, my sort of thing that I get them to do is called music video, where you pick a place, pick a scenario, something that's just happened to you before you start to sing the song, and then just go in the moment and really feel it, rather than I'm talking to so and so and here's my story and here's my shtick, because I find that doesn't always read the way that you want it to read.
A bunch of people asked, you cast a lot of children's tours.
I do.
What are you looking for specifically in like a children's tour audition versus an audition for an adult show, for lack of a better term?
It's, it's funny. It is some of my most favorite things to work on have been the children's shows, just because it's so fun. Like the material is so free, and we really are always looking for like personality more than anything else. So it's a very freeing process. Personality is, I think, everything for children's theater. Like I'm always trying to find that actor and that can really portray a kid, like the heart of who a kid is, because a lot of what we cast are like adults to play child actors. So there's a kind of energy that not everyone has, that that you're looking for, that like bubbling up energy, like, and really someone who can do that authentically. So I think personality more than anything is what we're looking for the kids shows.
When you ask for a second song in the room, what are you looking for? Like, what do you expect? Like, do you want someone to show that? Sometimes you ask specifically what for a type of second song.
Yeah, I mean, usually we'll ask specifically, like, hey, do you have this instead? Do you have something pop rock? Do you have, do you have something that shows soprano? So you should generally know. If it's just like, hey, do you have another song? It could be that your first song might have showed personality and not singing, right? So it could just be like, let's hear something else. I want to learn more about your voice, or let's hear something else that I want to learn more about your personality. It could just really be to get a stronger sense of who you are.
And you don't mind people asking for a clarification if you don't give them any?
Of course not. Always ask.
Yeah, there's lots of questions about what specifically you're looking for in a second song, and my answer is always ask. They'll tell you, and if they don't tell you, just pick something else. They just want to hear you sing something else.
Yeah, and like I said, that could be because we just need more information about who you are. Like maybe your 16-bar cut just didn't give us a lot of information, so it's like, hey, do you have something else? And always ask.
What, in your opinion, what elevates a good audition into a great audition? What are the auditions that after a 300-person day you remember? What makes people stand out?
Oh, kind of like I said before, there's an energy of freshness about it, new interesting choices, unexpected choices, and not for the sake of making unexpected choices, but just that because that person is so in the moment in the room. I think that's for me, and it's different for everyone. Different things pop for everyone, but for me that is like what makes somebody really sparkle in a room.
Lots of people have asked about being unrepresented and getting into the audition room. What do you think is the best way for someone who doesn't have representation to get onto your list or to make it into the appointment calls?
It's so funny to me that this question is always asked, but we don't have lists in our office, like we see all people, represented, not represented. If you are the right person for that project, we're going to bring you in for it regardless of representation. So it's an interesting question, but I mean, it's really, there's no magical answer. It's all the same ways, get out and be seen. Obviously we can't do that right now. We're on lockdown, but get out and be seen as much as possible. Submit for projects in all the ways that you do. Backstage, playbill, Actors Access. You can, for Wojcik, we like snail mail, and we keep all the headshots that come in. We just file them in folders, and when that project auditions, we pull that folder out and we go through it, and we're like, okay, who did we miss? Like who's in this folder? That's the magical answer to our problem. So any way you can submit for a project, submit for a project. And if you don't get an appointment, just go to the open call. Like, there's so many people out there. You just got to be resilient and just keep getting out there and getting seen.
Circling back to self-tapes for a second, Jane had a question. Jane, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question really quickly?
Yes. Hi, Holly. It's Jane Labons here.
Hi, Jane.
Hi. Fine. I'm trying to master this self-tape task.
Oh.
Do you have any feelings on tracks, whether you prefer just piano or to take advantage of one of these full orchestra karaoke tracks?
Oh, goodness. Wow, that's a good question. I prefer probably just piano for me. I know when we ask for our self-tape, we usually provide an MP3 in advance, and I feel like people should be doing that for you as well. But if you are going to go with your own track, I think piano is enough. I mean, I feel like if they hear a whole orchestrated track, they might be like, what is this? What are they trying to hide almost, Because
Sure.
the piano's enough. We really just want to see you and hear your voice.
And if anybody needs self-tape tracks for anything, for self-submissions, I'm doing free self-tape tracks right now for that sort of thing. So don't spend money. Send me a little thing, go to the website. I'll make you a track for you. Desperate times. None of us know when our next paycheck is coming in.
No, it's just terrible.
Jacqueline, you had a couple questions about resumes. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, Holly. I was wondering, so you just mentioned like getting out to open calls, especially non-represented. And I know your policy tends to be like typing in or out for non-union open calls.
Sometimes, depending on the call, like if it's really packed, we will type, but if not, we will try to see everyone.
Sure. And I very much appreciate the whole not getting there at 5 a.m. So I'm wondering, when you are doing that typing, you're taking that brief time to look at the headshot and resume, what are you looking for? And specifically, do you like to see training on a resume?
Oh, yes. I always love to see training on a resume, and especially names, like, because I might know somebody that you've trained with or worked with. That's helpful to me. Being as specific as you possibly can about your training, especially if you're in musical theater and it involves dance, like how many years of dance? Are you beginner, advanced, intermediate? Same thing with instruments. Like any kind of information you can fill me in on there is definitely helpful, especially when it comes to typing, because when we type, we do type based on the resume side, not the picture side. So we're looking at your resume credits, and we're looking for a certain skill set that we know we need for the show, the specific show. Like if it's what did I just work on? Anything Goes. And you have 5 years of tap, I'm probably gonna push you to the side and go with the person that has like 10 years of tap, right? Because I know that tap combination that Drew Humphrey teaches is going to be killer, and people are going to cry and leave the room. No, they're not going to cry. But you know what I mean? Like that's when we look at when we're typing for specific shows, that's what we look at. So if you come in for Rent and you have no pop rock credits on your resume and no indication that you have ever sung pop rock, you're less likely to be kept for that show. You know, I don't want to waste anyone's time. So it's like, oh, you know what, but oftentimes we will keep the headshots and resumes and take them back to the office, and then we'll go through them one at a time and be like, okay, well, she's not right for this project, but she might be awesome for this, so let's put her in that folder.
How do you prefer an actor's resume to be laid out? For instance, if they've worked with some big name directors, do you like those listed on the resume next to the shows or in a separate category? What's your general resume layout that you like to see?
Oh gosh. I mean, just so long as it's like clear and consistent, I kind of don't care, but directors with the shows, sure. Everyone has a different way, but it's all basically the same. Usually training's at the bottom, special skills at the bottom, training, if you want to include names of teachers and stuff, just list them alongside the class or whatever it is that you trained in. Yeah.
Also in the resume world of things, a lot of shows were canceled because of COVID-19.
No.
Some people are missing out on Broadway debuts and some big roles.
It's like heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It is. But what are your thoughts on how do actors who got those roles, who went through the process and got the roles, but the show is canceled, should they put those roles on their resume even though they're not going to perform them?
Oh.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that until someone asked me, and I'm curious what you think about it.
I don't know. I think I'd have to think about that one. I mean, I've seen Upcoming.
Yeah.
I feel like if you've won the role, you should be able to note that somewhere on your resume. But because you haven't actually done the role, it's hard. Like, I mean, what would you write, Aaron?
I have no idea. I don't know if for like a year or two I'd have like some roles with like a COVID-19 parentheses next to them or some. I don't know. It's right. A weird, because they've done the work and they've gotten the role, and that's that's huge.
Right.
Performed the role, so does it belong on the resume? I think is the weird question.
I don't know. I feel like we're going to have to decide this as an industry altogether, and I think actors are just going to have to do it. Just put it on there and make a note like COVID canceled. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows what's going to
That's
happen.
crazy.
Still on resumes, Hannah, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Hi, Holly. Thank you so much.
Hi.
Yes. So I have another question about resumes, going back to what you said about typing. So
Mhm.
let's say, for example, we have a good resume in like one type of theater or one genre, but we know we have, a skill set that is more varied than that. How would you suggest differentiating ourselves or like indicating that in that situation?
Like a specific.
Like, let's say I've only done, golden age shows, but I want to go in for a pop rock show knowing that I can sing pop rock, but my resume
Right.
that.
Your resume doesn't reflect that.
Or I mean, any sort of genre type thing, yeah.
Right. I mean, I feel like maybe there's some place in your special skills for that, or, a way of guiding somebody to your website where we can see a clip of that, or I don't know. That's an interesting question. And I know that typing has actually been super frustrating for a lot of you guys out there because of that, because you are generally cast a certain way and you'd like to be seen a different way. Yeah, I mean, I think I would put that somewhere in special skills, maybe highlight it if you know you're going to get typed. So that when we're going through, we kind of say, oh, well, she says she has the pop rock, so maybe we should take a look at that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, but definitely have, if you are interested in being seen different ways, definitely have something like that representative of what you do on your website or on YouTube or somewhere where I can access it, so that it's not like a guessing game for me. Like, I might know you a certain way, but like, if I haven't seen that other side of you, it's hard for me to be like, oh, she'd be a great Maureen,
In the world of typing, Christina has a question. Do you want to ask your question, Christina?
Yeah. Okay, so hi.
Hi, Christina.
So for TuaCon this year, you guys did the pre-type, if you will, with the
Yes.
drop-off resume headshots, which was awesome. And there you had to choose either the dancer box or the singer box. And
Right.
as somebody who kind of goes to both equally, depending on the show, if
Right.
it's more of a dance show or more of a singer show, when it's for a whole season like that, and you kind of have to pick a category, if you will, how would you recommend we go about choosing a category? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, it was awesome. That doing that this year was awesome, and I feel like it's going to change once we can get back up and running, and if there ever are open calls again, it will change the way we do open calls going forward, because I feel like it worked out very well and took a lot of the stress of that day away from you guys as well as us. That's an interesting question, because I think you really have to look at the season and kind of figure out for yourself, like, how would I track in this season? Would I track in more of a dancer track? And I feel like for you, yeah, I totally get it. You do both things, like, because I know you very well and I know your work very well. So for you, I think for this past season, you probably would have tracked more ensemble dance track, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's hard to say,
Yeah, it is. It is hard to say, but like, if you look at the shows, I could see you fitting there, and then obviously the big sing show was Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah, if you don't mind a follow-up question, Erin,
Yeah.
if that's okay. Does TuaCon generally has one ensemble that floats through the whole season, or is that incorrect? Can you just clarify TuaCon specifically, how they're
It's in reps, so everybody does pretty much all of the shows. Right. You have to track through all 3 shows.
Cool. Awesome.
And again, like, if you didn't get typed in for TuaCon, it may have been like you really only fit into one show, right? So, yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
What's the best way an actor can use social media? How often do you go to people's channels to learn more about them? What is social media in your life?
I mean, we're not in the business of like, this person has 20 million followers, so let's bring them in. luckily, because we're a theater office and it hasn't really affected theater that way. I know there is that thing with film and television that happens regarding IMDb and, you know, followers and the rest of it. But I would say be very careful about your social media. I'm someone that likes to stay super connected to everyone. Like, I'm not limiting my Facebook friends, and I chat. Because part of what brings me joy, and you guys should all know this, is I love to follow you when you're out doing the shows and doing the work. And I like to see the pictures that are posted of the casts. And I like to see, you know, that, oh, wow, this tour is out on the road and everybody is like having a blast, you know. But in the other side of that is then I will see, like, when you post like, God, I hate working for this company, or like this show sucks, you know, and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do a replacement call soon, and I feel that coming. So obviously you want to be careful about how you're portraying yourself on social media, because it is out there for the world to see. And I follow people. I like to keep tabs, and, you know, it's easy. Like, if you're in the office and you're thinking about ideas for a project, and everybody's, you know, we all work together in a very small office and we're always bouncing ideas off of each other. It's very like bullpen atmosphere. So if it's like, oh, Christina Jackson would be great for this, and, you know, I can then go on Facebook and be like, oh, but Christina's in Florida right now, she's doing XYZ.
Speaking of social media, can you talk about reels for a second? What's your ideal reel? How long is an ideal reel? What's on an ideal reel for you when you're looking at an actor online?
I think lead with your best material on your reel, whatever you feel like is the most castable, the thing that shows what you do the most often and the best, because sometimes we don't have time to watch the whole thing. So you want to pile all the best stuff first. But it's also helpful, like, if you're a singer that dances, like, show me a little dance, because I need, sometimes I'm really just like looking to see, like, okay, how much does this person dance? Like, so to have a well-rounded clip that shows your, like, the general level of your skill set across the board is helpful for me. Yeah.
Great. Let's jump into some other questions for a second. If anybody has more questions, keep them coming. They're great. We'll open it up for you guys. A couple people submitted a version of this question. I'm just going to read it. What would your advice be to an actor who's been in the industry for a couple years but feels stagnant and wants to break through the barrier and level up?
Ooh, level up. I would go a little inward and try to figure out what do you believe is causing the stagnation? And then I would ask people that you trust, that you've worked with, and say, hey, you know, I feel like I'm sort of being held back in a way, and, you know, I want to kind of take the next step, but like, I don't, what do you, and just ask and be like, hey, what do you think's holding me back? I've had actors come to me and say, like, can you just describe to me, like, what, you know, what you think would be good for me to advance, or like, what in the room can I improve upon? And I'm completely honest, you know. Sometimes, though, I will say, it is just because it is a numbers game, a lot of what we do, it is just staying in there and keep on going. Like, there is sometimes not that magical answer of like, oh, if you could just be a little bit more open in the room, like, do this, do that. Sometimes it's just like, you're amazing and you keep coming in for all of these things, and eventually it's going to be your moment. So yeah.
Thank you. Turning to appointments for a second, a couple people asked about getting called in for an appointment for a role or a show that they weren't interested in, and what the best way to decline an appointment is without hurting themselves.
No, people decline appointments all the time. Like, I don't think you need to worry about like hurting yourself, unless you make a big stink about it. But, you know, I would just say, I'm sorry, I have to pass on this. It's not right for me at this time. We get it. We understand. Everyone has lives. Everyone has things they like, things they don't like. It's fine.
What is your favorite part of the audition process? What makes you happy to be doing your job?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I think the thing that drives most casting people is that moment when you had that idea of someone and you felt like, wow, this person's going to be magical when I connect them with this team. Like this is going to be like a most amazing coming together and collaboration of people. And then you bring them into the team and the team is like, where did you find this person? You know, because ultimately, like the thing that is the most rewarding about what we do is getting people jobs. You know, like it's so delightful. The other really fun thing is like if it's somebody who's being hired direct and you actually get to call the actor and say, hey, there's a job offer coming your way. I mean, that's like the responses that we get from the actors make everything that we do worthwhile.
Yeah, the happy things.
Yeah.
The dreaded 8-bar audition. Do you ever do 8-bar auditions? And when you do, what are you looking for? I know they suck.
No. I've never been in a Wojcik room with an 8-bar audition. I've never been in a Joy Doing room with an 8-bar audition, nor have I been in a Michael Casera room with an 8-bar audition. I just think it's absurd. But I will tell you a funny story. When I was performing, I forget what theater it was. I went to an open call for one of these summer stock theaters. I'm not even sure it's around anymore. There were so many people there. They said, you get 3 notes. You can sing the end of Freddie, my love, Freddie, my love. Or you can sing the end of Danced All Night.
Wow.
They literally lined us up in a line, like 20 people across. And they were like, which one, go, 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 go. And it was like the worst ever. I'm not really sure what you can see in an 8-bar audition, except like that person can sing great. So I would guess that would be just sort of like another way of typing.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
It's like those old rent calls when people would line up around the block and they'd have them sing 8 bars a cappella.
I did that. I did that too.
How did that go for you?
I got a call back.
Hey.
I was called back from Maureen.
Congratulations.
I was not a Maureen. I was absolutely not a Maureen. But I was so excited.
All right, moving on to a little more a serious topic. I found my question. Can we talk a little bit about inclusivity in acting, and not so much? It seems like we've made some really good strides in minority casting, but a bunch of people wanted to talk about body type inclusivity in theater. And what are your thoughts on that, and what's happening?
Wow, that's tricky because we are such a like. It's I mean, it's sort of the next great frontier in inclusivity, and I think things have started to open up a little bit. The frustration with casting directors is we are always like really thinking outside of the box. Like if you have the right energy, and I feel like casting so much is about energy now more so than like type, and when I was auditioning it was all about type. Like it was about what you look like, and that got you in the door. But now I feel like we're really connecting energies, like based on what the team says that they want. Unfortunately, the final decision is made by that director or that producer. So at a certain point, like we can only bring options into the room and then they decide what they want it to look like. So yeah, I think we're gonna make some breakthroughs. I think also having this downtime right now to sort of go inward a little bit, I think is gonna change the way that theater looks a lot, like a whole lot. And I feel like once we are allowed to have in-person shows, like live entertainment again, I feel like the stuff that is getting written now for that time is going to be very different than what we've seen. I think it's going to be more intimate. I think it's going to be more actor driven. I think it's going to be less about what everything looks like, costumes, lights, the rest of it. I think it's going to go in a very different, more artistic direction, I hope. And I think in a lot of ways that's going to open things up even more so for inclusivity.
Great. While you mentioned the downtime that we have now, what are some things that you would suggest actors do with their free time outside of making sure they stay healthy and mentally fit and all those things? What's a good use of our time right now?
I think that this is a great time, one, for you to kind of take a look at your whole package that you have put together, your resume, your online stuff, and really get it to a place that you feel accurately represents who you are. But then I also feel like it's like a great time to kind of go inward and work on the artist part of who you are. We are always so busy and so inundated, and even more than ever, I think this past audition season hit me like a Mack truck, right? I never have time to do anything for me to, and that's fine. That's my choice. But look at all this time we have now to really fill, like, what, I don't know if any of you guys have done the artist way, what they call filling the well, where you kind of treat your artist right and then nurture your artist, and all of this other stuff starts to blossom. I think there are other sides of who we are that we haven't yet explored, and I think now's the time. So whatever that means to you, that's my challenge.
The artist's way.
Remember the artist's way?
If anybody comes to see Rachel Hoffman tomorrow, I promise you she will be talking about The Artist's Way when I ask her about what to be doing.
It's
now.
brilliant.
It's a great book. Everyone, if you haven't read it, go get it, read it.
Yeah.
I'm not even an artist and I've read it. Well, I guess I kind of am. On a different topic, readers and auditions. How do you find your readers? If someone wants to become a reader, what's the best way to do that? I tell people all the time, if they can get in the room as a reader, it's such an amazing
it's invaluable.
education.
It's like amazing. We have like a running list of people that we use, but we're always, open to new and different people. I think, just contact the people that in offices and just let them know, like, I am interested in being a reader at any point. We do try to really gear the reader that we pick toward the project. So, if we're casting My Fair Lady, we're going to be looking for somebody who has can do all the accents required, same thing with West Side Story. And, we do try to specifically set actors up for success by getting an amazing reader and reader specific to that piece in the room. So if you have specialties that you feel like I'm great with accents, I'm great with character work, I'm really great with this particular genre, let us know and just say, hey, I'm really interested in being a reader.
Great. It's such an invaluable education.
It really is like amazing.
A lot of people a bunch of people ask the question about, we're not doing college showcases right now, or they're happening online. What's the best way for someone who's like fresh college graduates who are going to be stuck in a situation where they can't come to the city, they can't start, meeting the people they're supposed to meet, they can't do their showcase in front of a bunch of people? Well, what's the best way for them to get out there?
Well, a lot of the colleges have been sending virtual showcases and just setting up profiles online where we can go into the showcase and really study each person individually and get to know them a little better. I'm actually finding it to be almost more helpful than a regular showcase, to be quite honest with you, because they are able to include a lot more information on there than we get in that like 40-minute showcase. So if your college hasn't set that up for you already, maybe you should inquire with them on, hey, can we do something like this? Can we get this up and running and send it out to all the industry professionals? And if they say no, then I think you can certainly take it upon yourself to do it and do the research and just send it out to various people in the industry. And try to be seen that way. Otherwise, I really don't have any other advice. I mean, we're all in the same boat though, so don't feel just like you're totally stunted. I mean, we're all just waiting around at home and hoping upon hope that our industry will come back from this, and it will.
It absolutely will. And also along those lines, in normal times, actors moving to the city, what do you suggest they do as far as getting themselves out there, taking classes, auditioning, taking dance club? What do you suggest?
In normal times?
In normal times.
Stay active. Listen to yourself too, like know what you need at a specific time, trust your instincts. Like sometimes you might need a class and you might need to be meeting people and working with people, and other times you might need a little time to yourself, so you pull back and go inward. I think if you inundate yourself, especially in normal times when we're all a little crazy and we've got like multiple jobs and we're running from thing to thing and audition to audition, if you inundate yourself a little too much, then you just burn out. So you have to know yourself and trust what you need in the moment. But it's always fun to like also try something different. Like what is a skill set you feel like you don't have? Are you funny? And if not, maybe do like a comedy class somewhere or something, and just try to see like, okay, what pieces of me are funny? Like it's always interesting to see and learn something new about yourself.
Anna, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? We're jumping back into resumes for a second.
Yeah, that'd be great. Hi, Holly. Thanks for being here. Thanks for this. So in like being an actor, singer, mover, I've really been like recently really working hard on my dance skills. What do you think is the best way for me to indicate that on a resume? And this could be for any such skills, like things you're really just starting to tap into, really starting to work hard on. But I feel like it's a little odd to put like tap 6 months to 1 year. You know what I'm saying? Like something I'm really improving on. I swear, like I'm getting better. But how do I go about like showing you as a casting director that I'm doing work on something?
Right. I think as we get to know you, we'll generally see your progression and learn that you are continuing and growing and learning. I think as far as indicating that on your resume, I think you have to stick to like beginner tap, strong mover, like just be very specific in language on your resume about your skill set and your level. And if we need to ask you about that in the room, we will. And that's your opportunity to be like, you know what? I am moving from beginner to an intermediate tap because I've been working now on it for X amount of years and I feel really confident in that skill set. So as specific as you can be on your resume, I think, and then just trust that. I think one of my favorite things about this job is really getting to know people over time and learning their skill set and watching them grow. So you can trust that if I've seen you a bunch of times in a room, I am noticing the changes and the improvement as you're going. So just trust that we're on your side. We're watching you, we're rooting for you, and we're we're noticing, I promise.
Thank you for that, Anna. Holly, what is your favorite quarantine pastime? What are you doing to
What am I doing?
pass your time?
I've been going on like really long walks all over Brooklyn, which is fun. And I started a blog on my website, which you can check out, which is just like hopeful, fun thoughts during quarantine. And I post every day, which has been keeping me busy. Yeah, what else? I just signed up for a social psychology class, which I think could come in real in handy for a casting director. And I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to stay busy, and I'm trying to kind of tap into other sides of myself and, figure out what else is there that I haven't even had a chance to explore or find out.
The long walks are definitely.
The long walks
right
are
now.
amazing with a mask.
With a mask.
And
a pair of gloves with you. Yep. Hold on. Is there, I don't know if you have an answer to this. What are some pieces of advice you are hearing actors receive you wish that you could debunk or just disagree with?
I hate the idea of instructors saying like you're doing too much, or like cutting off or making actors cut off or pull back on big choices. You know, I feel like there's a lot of actors out there that feel a little bit like, I have to hold it in, you know, I can't be too big, I can't be, and instead of thinking about it that way, I am always like, you can basically be as big as you want in a room, so long as it's authentic, connected, and justified. So rather than think about pulling back, think about what is real and what really resonates in the core of who I am. Because it's always, for me, the most frustrating when I see an actor who's not living up to their full potential because they're censoring. And you can tell it's because somebody said, you're doing too much. You know, it's like, that's not the way to address the problem of too much. Usually too much means not specific. So go for specificity and let everything come out. I guess that's the one thing that frustrates me.
A couple more questions. So if you have any more questions, shoot them at me. And then we'll let Holly get back to her quarantine and her long walks. Do you have advice for people that want to get into casting?
Run. No. It's a tricky career path. It's a small part of the industry, so you really have to be persistent. Where you can start is just by volunteering or offering your services as a monitor or as a reader or as a part-time assistant in offices, and just reach out to people and reach out to people and say, hey, can I just take you out to lunch or out for coffee, or can I pick your brain via email about what it's like to be a casting director and how to get started? It's a hard door to get into because the industry is so small. So you really have to be persistent and just keep going. But I will say this, if you are looking for a change that is not acting and you want to, you're like, I don't want to act anymore, I want to do this, which is basically how I kind of fell into casting. Don't be deceived. It is very much a similar lifestyle and a similar vein to what you're doing already, because it's technically a freelance job where you have to acquire projects like an actor, and it's high stakes and it's quick moving, and it's not entirely different than what you're already doing, which could be a good thing. I don't know. It could be what you're looking for. Not sure.
Speaking of casting directors, someone just asked, what have you learned as a casting director that you wish you knew as an actor?
Oh, so much. I mean, the big thing is like, the people that you're auditioning for want you to book the job. Like, if I bring you in the room, I want you to book it. Like, literally, if I could hire everyone that walked in the room, I would. So I think there still is a little bit of a misconception that's starting to fall away of like, it's us against them, right? It's not that way at all. We're all in the same boat together. So I guess that's the biggest thing. Don't make us the obstacle, because we're not. Like, really do your work for yourself. And if you find joy in what you do, I'm going to find joy in what you do in the room. So don't let us get in your way.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can learn being on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
Melissa, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, Holly. Melissa Perry here.
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
How are you?
Good.
I was just wondering your thoughts on how do you show your personality in a self-tape since you can't make that connection in the room?
Oh, right. I think there's a little bit of room on a self-tape at the beginning to be like, hi, I'm Melissa. Thank you for seeing me for this, you know, and then I'll be singing or, you know, whatever it is. You gave me the sides for so-and-so character. And that's your like 2 seconds to be like, this is who I am, right? Otherwise, don't drag it out, right? Just keep it concise. It's similar to like when you walk into an audition room, right? You have those few seconds to show who you are and to be fully who you are, but not that long, right? So
Thank you.
yeah, of course.
One last 2 more questions and then we'll be done. How much can you tell about an actor just simply from them opening up the door, walking to the piano, talking to the pianist, even before they start singing? How much can you learn about an actor in that time period?
A lot. I mean, first impressions, how you enter the room, who you are once you enter the room. Like we were saying, your 2 seconds on your video to be like, hi, and how, especially can tell a lot about you from how you interact with the accompanist. That says a lot. So you want to make a good impression, but you also just want to be yourself. So
and finally, if you could give just one piece of advice to actors, what would it be?
One piece of advice. Just trust your instincts and be like 100% who you are and don't apologize.
Yeah, just be you. It's the hardest thing, to just be yourself in the room and not turn into like awkward audition person.
Yeah, I mean, you are enough, and you are the reason why we show up at work every day. So please just be 100% who you are. Be authentic.
Holly, thank you so much for coming out and talking with everybody.
It was so wonderful to see so many familiar faces.
Tomorrow we have Rachel Hoffman at 3:00. So if you're not signed up, sign up. And on Friday, Dan Tracy is doing a self-tape / social media class, how to deal with that thing with what's happening now, which is I'm super excited about. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you on the next one. Bye, Holly. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Mwah.